US warns China over reported missile deployment in South China Sea. US warns China over reported missile deployment in South China Sea. The White House has issued a warning to China over its increased military presence in the hotly contested South China Sea. We're well aware of China's militarization of the South China Sea, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders told reporters, adding that there would be near-term and long-term consequences for the country. She did not specify what those consequences might be. Ms. Sanders was responding to reports that China had recently deployed missiles to 3 of the Spratly Islands, fortified outposts in the South China Sea where Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei have also claimed sovereignty. The missile deployment has not been confirmed, but Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said on Friday that deploying necessary national defense facilities to the islands is within China's rights. It has nothing to do with militarization, Ms. Chunying said at a press briefing. The US constantly strengthens its military deployment in the South China Sea. They should consider the consequence of this. China has built up its presence on the islands more than any other country in the area, installing air bases, radar systems, and defense capabilities. On Tuesday, China's aircraft carrier conducted drills with fighter jets in the area for the first time. The anti-ship missiles that China is said to have installed in recent weeks can strike surface vessels within 295 nautical miles, according to CNBC. The surface-to-air missiles can reportedly strike aircraft, drones, and cruise missiles within 160 nautical miles. If the reports are accurate, they would be the first missiles deployed to the area. The US and other world powers have cautioned against the militarization of the sea, which is a vital shipping channel and is thought to possess sizable natural gas and oil deposits. Australia's Foreign Minister Julie Bishop expressed concern about the news on Friday, telling Sky News that if the reports were correct, it would be contrary to China's stated aspiration that it would not militarize these features. The Philippines gave a more muted response, owing to their recently developed close relationship and friendship with China. We are confident that those missiles are not directed at us, said Harry Roque, a spokesman for President Rodrigo Duterte, according to Reuters. Be that as it may, we will explore all diplomatic means to address this issue. News of the deployment came amid heightened tensions between China and the US, as President Donald Trump threatened to impose some $50 billion in tariffs on China, and President Xi Jinping threatened to retaliate in kind. The US has also increased its freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea under Mr. Trump. China claims these operations are a violation of its sovereignty, and has threatened to step up their military presence in response. U.S. Navy Admiral Philip Davidson warned of China's growing military presence in the area last month, telling the Senate Armed Services Committee that the country is now capable of controlling the South China Sea in all scenarios short of war with the United States. The only thing lacking are the deployed forces, he said. Once occupied, China will be able to extend its influence thousands of miles to the south and project power deep into Oceania. Chinese Air Force lands nuclear-capable bombers on island in disputed South China Sea. The Chinese Air Force has landed long-range bombers at an airport in the South China Sea for the first time, a move which has fueled concerns about Beijing's ambitions to assert control over the disputed territory. China conducted takeoff and landing training with nuclear-capable H-6K aircraft, state media reported, prompting US warnings about destabilizing region. Beijing is pitted against smaller neighbors in multiple disputes over islands, coral reefs and lagoons in the waters of the South China Sea, which are important for global commerce and rich in fish and potential oil and gas reserves. The Defense Ministry said the exercises were carried out on an island reef, but it did not specify when or where. The drills involved several H-6 kiloseconds taking off from an airbase and making a simulated strike against sea targets before landing, the ministry said. The statement quoted a Chinese military expert, Wang Mingliang, as saying the exercises would help the Air Force improve its real combat ability against all kinds of marine security threats. The Washington-based Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, using Chinese social media posts, identified the location of the exercise as Woody Island, China's largest base in the Paracel Islands. With a combat radius of nearly 1,900 nautical miles, the H-6K bomber would have all of Southeast Asia in its range from the island, the center said. Further south, in the Spratly group of islands, China has constructed 7 man-made islands and equipped them with runways, hangars, radar and missile stations, further cementing its vast territorial claims in the busy waterway. The US and others accuse Beijing of militarizing the region to bolster its claims. The United States remains committed to a free and open Indo-Pacific, said a Pentagon spokesman. We have seen these same reports, and China's continued militarization of disputed features in the South China Sea only serves to raise tensions and destabilize the region. Admiral Phil Davidson, head of the U.S. Pacific Command, said last month that China had built up enough military force in the South China Sea to completely control the region. Once occupied, China will be able to extend its influence thousands of miles to the south and project power deep into Oceania, he said. China will be able to use these bases to challenge US presence in the region, and any forces deployed to the islands would easily overwhelm the military forces of any other South China Sea claimants. In short, China is now capable of controlling the South China Sea in all scenarios short of war with the United States. Earlier this month, the White House warned the US there would be near-term and long-term consequences for China if it continued to militarize the South China Sea. In March, China condemned the US for serious political and military provocation after a US Navy destroyer sailed within 12 nautical miles of an artificial island built in disputed waters.